Но почему-то ведь настраивается, да, понимаешь, и нету других путей, потому что, да, если даже у нас получается, потому что, да, не понимаете, как вы
поэзия. Да, понимаю.
Я сам себе преподавал,
Наоборот, и он тебе по себе говорит это, да. Он работает после всего, да. Ну, наверное. Шум просто все. Ну, плохо играешь просто все, да. Он играет нормально, да. Да. Вот это есть на самом деле, да. Ничего, ну и что постепенно, значит, нарастить, как бы, да. Наверное, вот это способность, да. Нет? Пожалуй, да. Да, репертуаром. Любимые песни свои, простые, даже не, просто как-то, да, без всяких штучек, короче, да, как, ты как хотел, что хочешь, наоборот, да, писать надо делать, все, постепенно работаешь, и все, да. Так, всегда же спокойно, как так всегда было. Эволюция даже так идет, наверное. Да, обойдет он гору, да, понимает. Да. Себя работаешь, что делаешь. Ну да, как бы, да, понимаешь. Наверное, да. Наверное. Ну хорошо, отказаться и отдыхать. Игры играть, смотреть какую-нибудь политику, еще что-нибудь, да. Да, типа того. И что дальше? Ну, то есть будешь, ну, может, наверное, и так, наверное, да, а потом внезапно что-нибудь там раз, и все, тебя ушли. Да, понимаешь. Да. Не знаю, политик. Я не знаю, как да. Все время на погребушках будешь, да, и да. Ну да. Ну ладно. Я этого не знаю, значит. Значит, не так, наоборот, значит, получается. Ой, ладно. Что-то еще надо? Сколько можно ждать? Нет, ну куда там писать, куда? В Москву писать, да? да. А что мне себе писать? Меня напиши. Эксперт. Как так? Почему? Да наоборот. Не знаю. Ну не надо играть тогда, да, ну да. Ну наоборот только да. А, да. Опять что ли? есть смысл. Да нет, он понял, защищает. Да. Нет, так так и учат же люди. Может, проще надо? Ну вот это и есть оно самое. Для чего животные оздоравливают, когда Моцарта слушают там или кого-то, Гайдена, да, и так далее, да, понимаю, да. Какая есть стезя там, да, понимаю. Так это, в принципе, известно, ну, как бы я просто уже, это самое, да, понимаю, да. Не знаю, гармоники, да, да, красота, да. Любит реагировать, да. Ну да, не знаю, нет. Опять ночь получилась, кое-что.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct, but it's wordy and hard.
Smartphones are becoming more expensive every single year, and it's not a surprise they're becoming increasingly capable, and we're spending more time on them, consuming data at a higher rate than ever before. But there's a company called Volk Wireless who are building a smartphone that can call people and access the internet unlimited from anywhere and for free forever. That's a concept that I can get on board with, but let's see how it works. When you buy the Volk One smartphone, it comes bundled with one of the company's Volk 5 wireless hubs. Kind of like a standard Wi-Fi hub, but instead of just being able to provide internet within a home, this hub can use radio frequencies to fire that signal up to a couple of miles away. And the signal can only be picked up by Volk phones, as they have a receiver built in. And so as long as you're in this range of a couple of miles, you can browse the internet and call people, all without needing a SIM card. So that's pretty cool, right? You've got unlimited data, even miles from home. Things actually get a lot more interesting when you step outside that. Each one of these Volk smartphones has not just a receiver, but also a transmitter. So at the same time as being able to consume the internet, your phone is able to send that signal to other nearby Volk phones. So all of a sudden, that Volk 5 signal is able to reach much further than just a couple of miles. It forms a network of devices that are all helping each other to stay connected. They've even developed rules just so that nobody abuses the system. Essentially, you're allowed to use as much data as you provide, with an extra 5 gigs on top of that per month as a buffer. You still have a phone number, so you can call landlines. Your signal could reach the most remote locations. And the most interesting and the most exciting thing about it is that it will get faster the more people use it, as opposed to just more congested like the current solution. The concept is new, and it's different, and people are skeptical. I'm skeptical. But there is some reassurance in the fact that even if all else fails, this is a solid all-round smartphone. You need an invite to reserve one, but considering it's priced at $394, you're getting a fair bit of phone here. It's got a Snapdragon 845, 4 gigs of RAM, and a dual 16-megapixel camera, plus a 6.2-inch AMOLED display, and it runs the latest Android 9. But, and you knew this was coming, I've got a few reservations. The whole concept of the phone relies heavily on having this network of users. The more people use VOLC phones, the further that signal can travel from the VOLC hubs. And basically this means two things. Number one is that if it gains some initial momentum, the potential is massive, and the whole system could even threaten carriers that have been going for decades. They've been running a trial in Hawaii, and the results so far look promising. But then, number two is that if it doesn't gain that traction, then the entire VOLC aspect of the smartphone is useless, and you're just getting an all-round average $400 smartphone. It will still have a SIM card slot, so you can use it like a normal phone, but then for that price, you can do better. Just from past experience, the latter seems more likely. I would love to see this take off, but it is going to be very hard to convince those initial buyers to take a gamble on a company nobody has heard of. Also, because this company has next to no past reputation, and considering that all we're seeing are renders on the website, it's likely that the phone is barely finished, and that the company are using this whole reservation system to try and gauge the amount of demand there is, before deciding whether to mass produce or not. I actually tried getting in touch with the team twice on Twitter, once on Facebook, and no response, so it doesn't exactly bode well for potential customer service. And from a technical standpoint, there is zero mention of the kinds of speeds you can expect. Not usually a good sign. And I would be a bit worried about battery life. It's got a solid 3,700 sign response, so it doesn't exactly bode well for potential customer service, if they produce or not. I actually tried getting in touch with the team twice on Twitter, once on Facebook, and no response, so it doesn't exactly bode well for potential customer service. And from a technical standpoint, there is zero mention of the kinds of speeds you can expect. Not usually a good sign. And I would be a bit worried about battery life. It's got a solid 3,700 mAh cell, but if you factor in having to effectively have a continuous data hotspot on, that will definitely be somewhat hindered. If you enjoyed the video, it would be massively appreciated if you could subscribe to the channel. And as always, my name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Привет, привет, вы же нормальные люди, чего вы на меня смотрите так? Нет, 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 нормально. Ну да, был, ладно. А кстати, да, тогда будет вообще
Gubaev, the clever ID for Go developers. The Go ID you can rely on, trusted by
Oh no, why do they bother? You might have heard of a site called Wish. It has some incredible value things, but it also kind of looks a bit like a scam. So today we're going to head on to the smartphone section and see what we can find. Wow, okay. This is Clone City. So we've got Mate 30. Look at those bezels. I don't think we've actually seen a real phone come out with those bezels. The images actually look pretty legit, but I think the problem is that the real thing won't, because it's saying it's £77 and you're getting a full HD display, a 4,800 mAh battery, which is even bigger than the actual Mate 30, and a 13 plus 24 megapixel camera. I doubt it, but we're going to have to try, so we'll add that to our basket. Oh look, so here we have the S91, and it is £29, that's nuts. Yeah, I guess we should just try it. We'll go for black. What else? Oh, we've got iPhones. Oh look, the i11 Pro, that's a bargain. Let's go for white. And it's so funny how they basically take real phone numbers and then dial them up to make them look better. So this isn't the S10 or the S11, you're looking at the S18 Plus phone. Sure, why not? Oh, and of course, it's not just the S18 Plus phone. Sure, why not? Oh, and of course, it's not just the Mate 30 we've got to worry about. We've got a Mate 35, which in reality is not actually a phone that exists. So this will be interesting. Let's go red. Let's just look at the names for a second. So we've got the Huawei P41 Pro here, the Mate 33 Pro. We've got, of course, the i11 Pro. I can't forget that one. And, oh, a Mate 36 Pro. Oh, and actually, this is interesting. So, if you look at the top corner, it tells you there is a 97% discount on these phones. And if that was true, then the retail price of this fake would be £2,505, which is higher than the real one. Oh my goodness. So this one is not a Renault, this is a Rhino. It's £29. That's crazy. I'm curious. A Renault, this is a Rhino. It's £29. That's crazy. I'm curious how good they can make a phone for that. Is it even a smartphone? Okay, and there's also some fairly legit looking iPhones. So I think we should try one of those too and just see how close they managed to get. Okay, these specs cannot be true. Not a chance. But then how do they get away with, okay, these specs cannot be true. Not a chance. But then how do they get away with straight up lying? I'm confused why a site like this exists in 2020. I do also at this point want to thank Surfshark VPN for making this possible, because this is not something I could do without them. I want to see if I can find a phone which has a real hole punch in it, because with fake phones, because it's much cheaper, what they often do when they're trying to copy phones that have hole punches is just create a notch. Hole punch phone. Ooh, okay. Note 10 Pro. And you can tell that's not real because there's no such phone as the Note 10 Pro. But it looks convincing, and if they manage to pull off what they're showing in that photo for £101, that's actually impressive. So let's give it a go. And the other thing I thought I'd try is to just find the cheapest smartphone. Like, how cheap can it actually go? We've got lots of 27s, lots of 29s. Okay, we might just have a winner then. It's looking like this phone over here, £23. What are we getting? Probably not a whole lot. If it even works, I'll be quite impressed, to be honest. Okay, let's buy that. And then for our phones, we need a couple of accessories. So let's have a look. Speaker. Oh man, it's full of knockoffs. Let's go with this one. Okay, so £11, we get pretty nice looking speaker. Blue. Okay, £17. We could pick up some earphones. Oh wow, okay. They really don't look bad. And then speaker. Oh man, it's full of knockoffs. Let's go with this one. Okay, so £11, we get pretty nice looking speaker. Blue. Okay, £17. We could pick up some earphones. Oh wow, okay. They really don't look bad. And then of course, one of the first things you see is AirPod clones. And this is something I've always been curious about because I've not really played around with many of them. Okay, we can pick colours. Let's just go with white. And £8, let's see how good it can possibly be. Last of all, I wanted to have a look at power banks. Okay, so this power bank has a capacity of 990,000 milliamp hours. That's got to be a joke. So this one says capacity of 1,000,000 milliamp hours. It's like you're trying to power some sort of nuclear generator. It gets worse. Wait, this one's 10 million. So when you click select size, you can click 100 milliamp hours, 9 million milliamp hours, 10 million milliamp hours, or 20 million. Okay, you know what, let's go 20 million, and let's go black and red. £14, bargain. Don't know what's going to turn up at my door. It's not going to be a 20 million milliamp hour battery. It'd be the size of an airplane. Oh god, I'm a little bit worried, I'll be honest. It's almost like they think it's a joke. Just for the sake of it, let's just order one more of these ridiculous power banks. Okay, let's go for gold. Why not? £16. Buy. I just don't get it. You know, let's just try it and see what happens. It's also interesting when you're filtering by price for these smartphones that the absolute top price bracket here is £77 plus, as if that's about as expensive as phones get. And to be fair, on this site they're about right, but it's just curious. Oh, I mean, they look fantastic. Let's give those a go as well while we're at it. It's interesting that it says they're refurbished. I'm assuming that means the packaging it comes in is not convincing enough to count as new. So we've got 15 items in our cart, and the total that comes to is £782.20. So I'm going to check out on that. Probably wait for about a month for it all to arrive, if it ever does, and then we'll see what we're working with.
One eternity later.
Okay, so probably the most surprising thing is that everything actually arrived. Apart from that M20 Pro phone, that ultra cheap one, but I still got refunded. So we're going to start with the accessories and then we'll get on to the phones. Alright, so we will start with the Beats by Dr. Dre. Any hope of this being a genuine item is now gone. So a little bit more than just refurbished by the looks of it as well. Okay, it actually doesn't look bad. Do you know what? The logo, the paint job, it's better than I thought it would be. The cushioning's a bit flat. Okay, let's give it a go. And I don't have a headphone jack. patchy budget experience so far. It's pretty bassy. No, actually, you know what, that's pretty good. I wouldn't say there's a lot of clarity, but it's about as good as you'd expect $15, $20, maybe even $30 headphones to sound. And actually, while we've got the laptop, we've also got a pair of earphones. These are the £1 earphones. There is a bit of a shipping cost involved as well, but incredibly cheap earphones. Okay, first impression, they look cool, but they do feel incredibly cheap. Let's try it. I remember how the website was talking all about how this is a dual driver pair of earphones. Yeah, I doubt all of it.
Пукали как это. Европа. Окей, ну да.
Okay, they're not great, but they're serviceable earphones for the pound, or £4 in total I spent on them. Very bass heavy, the kind of sound signature that you get with cheap earphones. Here's one I'm very curious about. So these are the incredibly inexpensive AirPods. The first impression is that it actually doesn't look bad. This magnetic mechanism here, the hinge, is a little bit loose. Like if it's open and you give it a wobble, it closes. But you know what? But you know what? I'm not unimpressed. Okay, so auto pairing. These instructions are cryptic. Something I'm really curious about is this speaker. It's actually really good. Take that wrapper off. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I think, at least visually, you could probably fool someone into thinking this costed $60. It's also completely sealed by the looks of it, so I think there's a good chance it could survive a drop in water.
I want to try that.
Yeah, I would not test that. It's come up as the Charge 3. Oh. Ugh. It's not great. It gives the impression that it's some sort of 360 surround speaker, maybe even with the bass coming out of here, these potential subwoofers, but it's not. There's some sort of small unit sitting in the front, and it just fires forwards. Bit upset about that one. Now for the batteries. And yeah, they've airbagged it up as you would for a 20. The battery, even with not great. It gives the impression that it's some sort of 360 surround speaker, maybe even with the bass coming out of here, these potential subwoofers, but it's not. There's some sort of small unit sitting in the front, and it just fires forwards. Bit upset about that one. Now for the batteries. And yeah, they've airbagged it up as you would for a 20 million milliamp hour cell. It's tiny, so I'm already convinced that this is not more than about 10,000 milliamp hours. Two immediate observations. It feels kind of cheap, I guess, as you'd expect. There's a bit of creaking in the plastic. But it's also not nearly as heavy as it should be. This is almost definitely at least a third hollow. That doesn't leave me incredibly hopeful for this next one, but we'll take a look anyway. Oh, okay. Completely different style of battery. This one's much slimmer and actually quite a bit nicer looking. Although that finish is hardly reassuring. It kind of looks like this top bit has just kind of been super glued onto the bottom bit 5 minutes before leaving the factory. The weight again though definitely makes me question the capacity. Okay, time for the smartphones. I've been slightly nervous, mostly excited about doing this. And because there's so many, I think the best way of doing it is for me to just kind of lay them all out and do it at once. But it's also not nearly as heavy as it should be. This is almost definitely at least a third hollow. That doesn't leave me incredibly hopeful for this next one, but we'll take a look anyway. Oh, okay. Completely different style of battery. This one's much slimmer and actually quite a bit nicer looking. Although that finish is hardly reassuring. It kind of looks like this top bit has just kind of been super glued onto the bottom bit 5 minutes before leaving the factory. The weight again though definitely makes me question the capacity. Okay, time for the smartphones. I've been slightly nervous, mostly excited about doing this, and because there's so many, I think the best way of doing it is for me to just kind of lay them all out. Different style of battery. Wait. Oh, okay. Completely different style of battery. This one's much slimmer and actually quite a bit nicer looking, although that finish is hardly reassuring. It kind of looks like this top bit has just kind of been super glued onto the bottom bit 5 minutes before leaving the factory. The weight again though definitely makes me question the capacity. Okay, time for the smartphones. I've been slightly nervous, mostly excited about doing this, and because there's so many, I think the best way of doing it is for me to just kind of lay them all out and do it at once. And it is actually quite interesting, almost like there's some sort of coordination going on at Wish, because they all come in very similar, strange, plain white boxes. Ooh, and this one's refurbished. So I think it makes sense to open them in price order. We'll start with the cheapest, web to the most expensive. Alright, let's start.
Чиху, Мурак, что ли, Мурак? А что, для кого ты, ну и что, смотри, и что дальше? Ну, да, на себе так говорил, да, да, и что, и кому, ну, и что, да, на себе. Ну ладно, гадайте сами, гадайте. Ладно, давай. Да не надо ему просто. Ну и все, так и в чем проблема?
So this is the S91, many, many years ahead of its time. Okay.
Вот ей вроде достаточно этого, но... Да. Долго просто... Да, ты как...
Hey, it actually kind of looks like a Galaxy S9. It's got a dual camera setup, but weirdly a matte finish. It's not actually as bad looking as I thought it would be. We'll come back to it. Who doesn't love a good Rhino 3? It's a bigger phone. I'm curious how well it's set up, but weirdly a matte finish. It's not actually a 9. It's got a dual camera setup. Hey, it actually kind of looks like a Galaxy S9. It's got a dual camera setup, but weirdly a matte finish. It's not actually as bad looking as I thought it would be. We'll come back to it. Who doesn't love